Hello my fellow hunters, in this video I'm gonna talking about a YouTube comment and question from Discord server. It's about the crit damage amount for a switch axe. So you know, a switch axe in general does a lot of fixed damage. For example, either if you're using ZSD spam, you have a lot of fixed damage with the Soaring Wyvern blade, or for the ZSD finisher, which does a ton of damage. A lot more in comparison to the ticks. With the ticks maybe you do only in some cases about 30 damage numbers, and with the finisher sometimes about up to 350, 400, whatever. So the Soaring Wyvern blade is pretty much stronger than the ticks itself when you get sum it up. And I also want to show you the YouTube comment, and I got this comment in this video where I talked about the switch axe skill priority. And here is the comment from Michelangelo. Didn't knew he's a swagsman, but kinda interesting. And he's written, he has a scenario with the Daora switch axe, which has a power file, and in his build he uses a lot of crit skills. You can see he used crit I5, which I personally don't recommend using crit I5, and he also uses crit boost. So the thing is, for the Daora's Jana has a pretty cool effect that gives you 30% affinity when continuously attacking, and if you're fighting against monster with a good hit zone value or even with a bad, you can get with the wax 50% extra, so you have 80% crit, and I don't really recommend that you need more crit skills. 80% is completely okay. If you're using a switch axe, you don't have to max out 100% crit. That's completely new in Monster Hunter Rise. In Monster Hunter World Vanilla and Iceborne, I also maxed out always to 100%, but in Rise it isn't really recommended. And yes, he's written here he uses crit I5, but honestly in his case, like I here explained, I recommend to him using agitator, because for example with the Gossarak legs, in most cases Gossarak legs for the switch axe are better than the Rajang legs, because you have 3 agitator levels instead of 2 crit boosts, and in the most cases level 3 agitator is better than level 2 crit boost. I can also show you that later in the damage calculator, because you got more raw damage for your so Soaring Wyvern blade and other stuff. I'm gonna also show that you in the damage calculator later. Yes. Yeah, the thing we're talking about is the amount of fixed damage you're doing in several different combinations. And I got also this comment from Pen Wyvern. I don't know, in Germany the correct pronunciation is Wyvern, and in English it's Wyvern, so I say Pen Wyvern. And this is an extremely famous Redditor in the Monster Hunter meta subreddit, and maybe also in the general Monster Hunter Reddit. He's one of the most famous persons in general Monster Hunter Reddit, or subreddit. And his question is, and I also think he's a switch axe main, but I'm not 100% completely sure, but his questions show a very good switch axe math knowledge. And his question was, my point is, like I explained in previous videos, the most EFR calculations basically assume that every hit can be a critical hit, but that's not true for SA. So in this point he's totally right. Like I also explained, don't use EFR calculator for switch axe, that's completely garbage. And the most Reddit, for the most Reddit builds, they are using EFR calculations, which is also completely bullshit, and no inclusion of Rabbit Morph, Power, Longer and other stuff. So I only recommend using the builds from my personally calculator. I also show that you after I've read the question. Lamp Explosion cannot be critical hits, and neither can be ZSD Final Explosion. Since those cannot crit, it means that any affinity or crit boost skills is lost on them. So basically, the more they contribute to the damage output of a run, the less important critical skills are. However, I never saw anything trying to estimate how much of a run's damage is made up by those hit which cannot crit, and I think that might be a bit of an oversight. Yes, so I'm not sure whether I have the free time or other stuff to analyze those runs. Also, it heavily depends on the player style, but I can show you in theory how this works exactly. And maybe the most of you knowing my cycle DPS calculator for SwitchX, and I really recommend using this calculator. This is, I think, this calculator all in all took me more than 30 hours or even more to create. Also with the included amp uptimes, like you can see here, and that's pretty one of my biggest projects I've ever made for SwitchX calculation. You can also click here all the skills, so I recommend downloading this calculator and test it yourself. And the thing I added new is this one. This bar shows the fixed damage. And I made something wrong. That's not a percent, that's our just numbers. And you can put in here your SwitchX data. So you choose the most common values for SwitchX with 190 raw and 30 element new affinity. And you can see here now the fixed damage. I didn't edit the percent, but if you want, I can do this. So I'm gonna adding the percent. Let's give me 1 second. Okay, I also added now the percent here, but Penguin asked for only for the damage, not for the percentage. So I only added the sheet with the fixed damage, and I'm using two different combos for the comparison. I'm using please keep in mind this is no DPS sheet. Loop combo does more DPS than ZSD with soaring Wyvern Blade, so don't get confused with that. That's only the damage numbers. And here you can see in the first line that's the fixed damage, and the second with purple it's the crit, as with the hits that can crit. And at the end you can see the sum of the damage. And yes, here you have the damage output for the rapid move loop combo, and in the second line the zero sum discharge with soaring Wyvern Blade. And you can see here this is the damage output for the ZSD. One times tick, 3 thrusts, 10 times tick, and 1 finisher. So you can see here the gray cells means that it's a fixed damage, and you can see they always the same, not depending on its own value. Or like here for the rapid move loop combo, it's here at the top. Also fixed damage, also rapid morph affected. Because we haven't rapid morph, if I put up some levels, so you can see here the values changes. Okay, I have to round up this stuff. Okay, round it. So you can see, don't matter which skills I change, also here the percentage amount changes. So you can see, for example, if I didn't have rapid morph equipped for the RM loop, the damage percentage output fixed damage is 27.7%, and if I enable rapid morph level 3 we have now 28%. So you can see the amount of fixed damage goes higher. And what's the reason? The reason is that your files are now rapid morph affected. So you can see here you do more file burst damage got increased. That means also that your amount of crit damage got increased. Now I want to show you something with the crit skills. Okay, we're gonna let that rapid morph active. Let's do, for example, attack boost. And let's compare what's better, attack boost or crit skills. Now I want to show you some scenarios that raw is more important than crit skills. So the first scenario we are using is attack boost versus crit eye. So you can see here for the switch X, the ARM loop damage output is 402, and the amount of non-crit damage is 28%, and for the zero-sum discharge is 51%. That means more or than the half is fixed damage. Now we are using attack boost level 4. Remember, attack boost has the same slot size than critical eye. So you can see now the amount of fixed damage got increased to 52%. And now, for example, you can see for the rapid morph loop combo we have 431 and 886. So let's only check the rapid morph loop combo. We have 431 damage output. Keep that in mind, I put it here, 431, and the ZSD was 886 for attack boost 4. Okay, and now let's remove that attack boost and put in a crit I7. So they have the same slot size. I gonna show you crit I level 4. So you can see only 415 damage output, and ZSD with Soaring Wyvern Blade only 844. You can see we have less amount of fixed damage, and you can see, for example, attack boost 4 is so much more stronger than critical eye. And now we're doing a really weird thing. We're using critical eye 7, so completely max out crit eye 7, and I want to show you that crit eye 7 is weaker than attack boost 4. So you can see here, with attack boost 4 we had 431 damage output for a rapid morph loop combo, and with crit eye 7 we only have 482. So you can see attack boost 4 is still pretty much stronger than critical eye 7 maxed out. And remember, we've used 3 more level 2 slots. And also ZSD with Soaring Wyvern Blade does less damage. With attack boost 4 we had 886 and now 859. And now we're gonna do a very interesting thing. I want to show you. Most of my viewers was very surprised in the first meta 3.0 video, why I used agitator instead of crit boost. And now I want to show you the comparison. So the first thing we're going to do, we're going to enable the weakness exploit. So you can see here the amount of crit able damage we are doing got increased. So we're choosing Wax, we have 427 and 862 damage output. And now we want to using different skills. Like we want to compare the crit boost skill and the agitator skill. So I wondered a lot why a lot of speedrunners using critical boost for their set, and I want to now show you that it's completely garbage to use critical boost. So you have to see this from the eye so you maybe know I'm a speedrunner, and if I am doing a speedrun, the monsters are 100% of the time enraged. You can see it in my runs in the upper left, always there's the red eye. So this thing I'm showing you now, the comparison from agitator and critical boost is only for speedrunners. Yeah? So I'm showing you now the crit boost maxed out skill. So we completely max out crit boost, completely maxed out, and we have, like you can see here on this cell, we have 50% affinity, 50%. And now I want to show you the amount when we have critical boost 3. Damage output is 442 and 78. And now we are using instead of critical boost 3. So the funny thing is on the Rajang legs you only have critical boost 2. But on the Gossarak legs you have agitator 3. So we now enable agitator 3 and we see what's happened. So you can see on Agi 3 you have 455 damage output for a rapid morph loop, and for the Soaring Wyvern blade with ZSD 910. And the thing is, in reality, we only have to compare the legs, because the Rajang legs only have 2 levels of crit boost. So we enable 2 levels of crit boost. I can see here it's only 437, and the ZSD with Soaring Wyvern blade only does 875. So you can see here still, in comparison, the Gossarak legs for a Switch X player is a lot more damage output than using the Rajang legs. Yes, if you have any other ideas for the skill comparison, you can tell me in the comment section down below. I can also trigger other skills like Krakenheart, Resentment, Counter-Strike, Peak Performance and other stuff. I'm not sure whether we can compare some other skills, but if you wanna see some other skills compared in this table, you can tell me in the comment section down below, and I'm gonna compare this stuff in the next video. You also have to remember that this stuff depends on the file, so I have done this for a PIO file. So you can see here I'm gonna delete the cells, and you can see here damage output for ZSD is 51%, and now we're using an elemental file, and you can see here it's got a little bit less, so we have more critical damage, but that doesn't care. Also depends, you can see here, on the file type. Okay, we're using the power file, and yes, if you have any questions for skill comparison, please ask me in the comment section down below. See you next time.